Greetings, traveler.
Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the new Beast and Dragon reveals. Here we have the removed beasts. As you can see, there will be no more beetles, and Hawkstrider Herald is also out. I do love playing with the chicken. It's a really fun card to trigger stuff like Blaster and just in general. Get a lot of start of combat effects. I have a lot of good memories with that card, but it's understandable, it's got to rotate out. Then we also have Burrower leaving, Mount, Stag, Hydra. Hydra makes sense. Hydra's part of that Burrower package, so really huge overhaul to how beasts will be played. Our first new beast card is Stomping Stegodon. Now this is already a super interesting card. It has a rally that buffs your board, gives your other beasts +2/+2, but also the rally transfers then to the next minion. Well, to all of them, really. So what happens with this is that it's a little bit like Leapfrogger, where the rally jumps to the next minion, and then that minion has the rally as well. That attacks, applies the rally to everything else. And then by the time your third minion attacks, you should have a double rally effect on that minion, so that when that one attacks, you're applying 2 rallies to all your remaining minions, and so on and so on. So like Leapfrogger, it multiplies. Now, you have to keep in mind that that sounds insane, and it might be, but when you think about it, you attack with your first minion, you attack with your second minion, your opponent is attacking in your minions. How many things are actually still alive by the time you're starting to apply tons of rally effects? So that's probably the main thing that I'd be concerned about when I'm thinking about, oh, this is insane. It doesn't mean it's not insane, right? It could be really cool. It does sound really good. And you could have multiple Stegodons, and as we've seen, or as we will see, there is a way to apply Wind Fury to your beasts. So yeah, this absolutely has the potential to be really silly, which would be fun, right? That's going to give for some cool videos, and you know, then it'll probably get nerfed if it's too good. Here we see Lightfeather Screecher. This is what I was talking about. Start of combat, give your leftmost minion, or sorry, leftmost beast, very important distinction, Wind Fury and Divine Shield. So this is the, Mom, can we get Alec here? No, we have Alec here at home, and then this is Alec here at home. Yeah, I mean, given what we've just seen with the Stegodon and how important it is to attack multiple times, and just in general, beasts have Macaw. Macaw is like a phenomenal Alec here minion because you can trigger the death rattle multiple times. Just like very strong, very fun beast support card here. Raptor Elder is our third new beast card. Your beasts have +1/+1, improved by each beast you've summoned this combat. So very much like Goldrin, where you will buff tokens as well, where your beasts just have an extra buff. Now, with Goldrin, it's a little easier to get a huge amount of beast buffs because you can amplify it with Titus, you can use Macaw, you can reborn stuff. As we've seen, you can Wind Fury. So Goldrin definitely goes way faster with this. And the issue I have with this card is that it ramps up pretty slowly because you have to really wait for a lot of your beasts to have died. And at that point, how many beasts do you have left to buff? Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad card. I don't think it's a bad card. I think this hits really hard tempo-wise. If you have a board with lots of beast summons, we're going to see you know, some support for this returning as well. You can get a big tempo spike in the mid game. My thinking is this is pretty difficult to make an end game board with, because what Goldrin does is you really just buff up front and then all your tokens will be big. Whereas with this, you need to kill off a lot of your own minions first, and only then it starts getting some value. So for an end game board, it's probably a little bit too slow. Again, could be wrong on that. Merciless Mammoth. So this is our new sniping card. This always attacks the enemy minion with the lowest attack. So this is a Titus killing machine. This is Zap, right? For those of you who remember Zap. Yeah, so that's always fun when you have counter cards in the meta. This will be a little bit of mind gaming that you can do with this, where you can, you know, you have to play a small minion so that the mammoth attacks that, but then the mammoth might have Wind Fury. So, you know, there's a lot of fun little stuff you can do with that. So yeah, I mean, the stats are also phenomenal. 6/7 on tier 4. That's really good tempo. So you can just pick this card up when you're on tier 4. Because it attacks a minion with the lowest attack, it'll pretty much always value trade at that stage of the game. So really nice tempo card to pick up as well, on top of the tech role it fulfills in the late game. Sharp-Eyed Sabertooth is some really good Poltron support. For those of you who remember that card from the initial blog post, Poltron really needs a lot of attack because you want to get the most value out of that Avenge trigger. And the Sabertooth is how you can get that. So other than that, I don't think there's like this amazing minion. I guess you can put some damage on the mammoth we just saw, and just in general buffing your beast isn't too bad. It also goes on a minion. It's not just a beast, so you can use this to buff your Titus to play around mammoth, for instance. So here we go. There's already some fun mind gaming stuff. If you somehow can fit a Bran in the board where you're running Poltron, you can give it huge damage, because the Poltron board will run a lot of Avenge triggers already. But fitting a Bran is going to be pretty tough, so probably not. All right, here we have that support I was talking about. Rat Pack is back. This card is just tokens on top of tokens. Summon the number of 1/1 rats equal to this minion's attack. So that's pretty much always, the text on this card is almost always, fill your board with rats. However many spots you have left, play that many rats. Now, obviously not when you just play it. It's only a 2/2 them, but you can buff this quite easily. There's lots of cards where it gets buffed into combat. Good card for Goldrin and all that stuff. So yeah, this is some nice support for a lot of this stuff we've seen already. Goldrin, as I've been talking about it, that wasn't a coincidence. Goldrin is coming back. So that is going to be more support for that archetype where we saw the 5-drop that buffs your beasts based on how many things have died. You'll still be able to run the Macaw now with Wind Fury and just go full Goldrin. My thinking is that once you get to the Goldrin stage, honestly, you probably just want to run more tokens instead of that 5-drop that's buffing everything. You want to run your Mech Horse, right? Maybe a Rat Pack. Might want to reborn some stuff. You're going to have to fit your Titus. You're going to want to fit your Macaw. So there's just not a lot of board space left at that point. Sewer Rat is back. That's more support for the token archetype we've just talked about. Mama Bear is back. Wow, this is a bit of a blast from the past. So Mama Bear was just not good enough for a long time because of power creep, but as we've seen, they are dialing down the power level a little bit, and it is going to be a 4-drop, so that's very early. You can get that on your board. There's a very specific interaction available now that hasn't been in the game for a super long time, and that is Jandis, Alley Cat, Mama Bear. Now, for those of you who have never seen it, you're like, how good is that? That's actually really good, because you play Alley Cat, your Alley Cats get buffed, you swap the Alley Cat back in the shop, you buy it, you play it again, it gets buffed again, you can farm triples with that, and you get this like huge Alley Cat and Alley Cat token because you combine the tokens and they got all the Mama Bear buffs. So especially if you triple into a Mama Bear early, or even, better, 2 of them, you can make some really big Alley Cats, and it's good tempo in triples like that. So very specific, but one of my favorite things to do whenever that is in the game, so I'll definitely be exploring that some more this season. New Zhao is back. It is now a rally effect, so no other changes than that. It's just the new wording. But we can now give Wind Fury Divine Shield, so that is nasty. We've also seen the Sabertooth card that can buff the attack on a minion. This will be a good target for that, especially with the parrot that gives you Wind Fury Divine Shield. The new Zhao can just go like wham, wham, just completely go ham and destroy a board before it ever gets a chance to go off. So yeah, I definitely suspect that to be a huge counter versus, undead token type strategies, or even just another beast player that relies on getting the Goldrin trigger with the Titus. If you go first with the new Zhao Wind Fury, you could just kill the Titus before they ever have a chance to go off. Macaw is staying, but is now a rally effect. Same as all these other rally minions, not much to talk about. Scarab, huge change. On top of the 5-drop that provides Wind Fury, we can now also give Wind Fury with Scarab. So yeah, they're giving beasts a lot of love, and I think that's fine. We haven't been in the beast meta for a very long time. It's been a lot of stats, a lot of just cycling with Bran and end of turn stuff with Drakari, but beasts have not really been shining. So potentially a beast expansion, given a lot of support here, lots of Wind Fury, lots of ways to get a lot of Death Rattle triggers. Then we have the removed dragon cards, and they finally did it. They removed Caligos. That's been a little bit of a joke where a lot of people have been saying, why is this card still in the game? Now, granted, it had its moments, especially in the previous / current meta, where it is quite easy to get a Golden Brand in certain anomalies. So Golden Brand with Caligos is still viable, but to be fair, pretty much anything with a Golden Brand is viable, so that doesn't say a lot. So it's pretty difficult to get a good Caligos build going. A lot of the time you would play with Whimsy, which is also out, and you just trigger the Whimsy, you get a handful of dragons, and you would just end up with like double golden Caligos. But that's a little bit unreasonable. We have to say, oh, for this, you know, this is pretty viable when you have a brand and double golden Caligos. It's like, well, I mean, it better be viable then. So yeah, finally removed Caligos. And as you can see, that's just all the Caligos support out as well, because that makes sense. No more Dracasath, right? No more Hunter of Gatherers. Our first new dragon card is Sleepy Supporter. Rally, give another friendly dragon 2/3. That is a 3/4. As the old school Hearthstone players would say, that's a spider tank. That's a huge throwback. Yeah, that's really good tempo. I would suspect that this will get nerfed a little bit, because if you have a dragon on turn 1 and then turn 3 you're on tier 2, you buy a Sleepy Supporter, you put a 3/4 on the board, that also adds +2/+3. So even though I don't love adding the stats together because it's not really true, right? You get a 5/7. That's a lot of tempo for a tier 2 minion, especially given that this could technically attack twice, which will then buff again if you have a dragon left over. So yeah, quite strong. Probably expect the buff to become slightly smaller or the stat line smaller, or both of them, so we'll see. But it seems like a really strong minion to pick up early to not lose your fights. Then Nimble Hatchling also looks really strong. Battle Cry, get a Nimble Wingbeat. This is the Nimble Wingbeat. You give a dragon +10 health and Wind Fury. So let's have a look at what that looks like here. You would have a 317 on tier 4. That's a lot of numbers. That's pretty good. So very worst case scenario, this buffs itself, which means you're not getting any type of rally value, you're not getting particularly amazing health buff on a high damage minion, right? It's just 3, but a 317 is still very good. So again, a bit overshot on the tempo portion, again in my initial observation. Of course I could be wrong about any of these things, but seems like you just buy this because you then win fights. And that's a good thing, because if you win fights, you don't take damage, you can go to tier 5, and there we go. Now we can play the game, we can get high tier minions. So, you know, both the 2-drop and Nimble Hatchling seem like a really nice tempo pickup early. Twilight Watcher is a new 5-drop. Whenever a friendly dragon attacks, get all your dragons +1/+3. Especially with the Wind Fury card we've just seen, that's a really high tempo card to triple into. If you're on tier 4, you have a board full of dragons and you triple into this, that's pretty annoying, because like we've already seen this with Rallier, Roaring Rallier. That card only buffs the dragon that attacks, and that's still pretty nasty tempo wise. So this will buff your entire board, and we have a way to get Wind Fury. So yeah, fantastic card to triple into early to get you through the mid game. Vengeful Protector, very similar type of effect. Divine Shield, Rally, give your other minions +3/+3. Notice how this just says minions and not dragons. So again, we could Wind Fury this with the Wingbeat, or we could just have this on the board as a 7 damage Divine Shield that buffs our whole board +3/+3, and that is still just fine for tempo. So again, very nice card to triple into early, or if you're on tier 5 early, you pick one of these up to try and stabilize and not lose health. Blue Whelp is a new spell buffing support. Your tavern spells give an extra +1 health this game on Rally. So Wind Fury on this could farm quite a lot of the spell buffs. So this will be a little bit more tricky to figure out how to play this, probably with the shiny ring generator, right? And then you have Blue Whelp early, you get a lot of health that way. Getting a lot of health, it gives you a lot of synergy with the new tier 6 dragon that transfers its health, which we talked about in the blog post reveal. So yeah, definitely some opportunity here to capitalize on this effect. Then we have some returning or changed minions. Glim Guardian is now a rally effect and loses the health component, which makes sense because with all the support that we've seen with Wind Fury and stuff, this probably just becomes a little bit too strong for a 1-drop, where it just Wind Furies and keeps attacking and keeps healing, and that's pretty frustrating to fight against. So we're gonna just turn it into a rally effect, which means that it will trigger, right, certain cards that require you to attack with rally, and you're still getting the +2 attack. Alright, then we have Taragosa. This is a wording change. It now keeps bonus keywords and stats. That is to avoid giving it any sort of effect it shouldn't have. So let me clarify here. It's not so much for Taragosa, but we have Persistent Poet as well, which has the exact same change. Adjacent dragons now permanently keep bonus keywords and stats. So realistically, nothing really changes here because that's how we always use Poet. But there was a time where dragons were banned from beast lobbies because you would be able to play an amalgam next to Poet and then have Leapfrogger jump on the amalgam, have a Poet next to the amalgam, and now it has the permanent Leapfrogger death rattle, which is silly because you can stack that like crazy, and then essentially all you would do is you could just like kill off your amalgam start of the fight, and just like frog. So yeah, not allowed, which is fair, right? That would be complete chaos. So this is just a text change to avoid those situations while retaining all the effects that we usually use a Poet for. And then the Terragosa change is just to be in line with that. So now there's only bonus keywords and stats and not some unintended effects such as the Leapfrogger Death Rattle. Amber Guardian gains Taunt. That's not a huge change, but a welcome change. Usually when you have a board full of dragons and you taunt something, it's the Amber Guardian because, you know, you just throw that away so that if they attack with a Leroy, they bump into the Guardian and that's whatever. Greenskeeper is now a rally effect, same as with all these other ones. Not super interesting, just the text change. Fireforged Evoker is now +1/+1 instead of +2/+1. This is completely in line with all the other changes we've seen. We predict the lower power level, which means that Evoker being 2/1 is probably way too good. So we're going to turn that into 1/1 and see if that's still decent or if they're going to have to increase the buff again. And then for our final card, we have Ravager, which is also just a rally effect, so not much to talk about there. Hope you guys enjoyed this reveal. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest changes, make sure to hit subscribe. We will have another video for you tomorrow. And then on August 1, we will have the early access event. You can catch that live on my Twitch, and we'll be uploading games of that on YouTube as fast as we can. Have a nice day.